Hi, this is Rosie. I'm just resting, getting ready to go back to bed for the second time. I sleep a split shift. Anyway, just want to let you guys know why I'm not on screen. It is 8:07 a.m., 2015, and I'm going to give you a report on Iran's October 10 missile test and what's wrong with that. So, apparently there is a UN ban on testing weapons of mass destruction that have nuclear capabilities. And so here's what one of the reports says out of comes from Reuters, United Nations by Louis Charbonneau. The medium-range Ahmad rocket that Iran tested on October 10 was a ballistic missile capable of delivering a nuclear warhead, which makes it a violation of a United Nations Security Council resolution, a team of Sanctions monitors said in a confidential new report. I'm going to go on with this report about Iran, but I had a question because when I started doing this report, I thought, didn't the United States just do a ballistic missile over California or over the ocean by California? And did it have nuclear capability as well? And was it also under the UN ban? Because I am not quite understanding this because I know that they said the one that we did here in the United States was an unarmed ballistic missile, but I don't know. There were no reports that came out that said it was banned for the United States to do that, but Iran has just done that, and now they're saying that they're not supposed to be setting off missiles that have nuclear warhead capabilities, and so I'm not quite sure what the difference is. Perhaps the one we didn't have that capability, but I thought it kind of sounded like it might have. So anyway, I'm going to go on with this report. The conclusion of the Council's panel of experts on Iran will likely lead to calls for additional punitive measures against Tehran in Washington and some other Western capitals, which probably means likely other NATO nations. I'm only guessing. And when they say punitive measures, it's probably some trade sanctions. So, do I mean sanctions? Is that the word I'm looking for? Anyway, it will probably affect their trade. So on the basis of its analysis and findings, the panel concludes that Ahmad launch is violation by Iran of paragraph 9 of the Security Council Resolution 1929, the panel said in the report. Reuters on Tuesday reviewed the 10-page report, which was dated December 11th, that makes it 4 days ago. The report is expected to come up later on Tuesday when the 15-nation council discusses the Iran sanctions regime. So the report, hang on just a second. Yeah, the page is jumping around. I'm trying to catch up with it. The report said the panel considers ballistic missiles capable of delivering nuclear weapons to be those that can deliver at least a 500 kg payload within a range of at least 300 kilometers. The panel assesses that the launch of the Ahmad has a range of not less than 1,000 kilometers with a payload of at least 1,000 kilograms, and that Ahmad was also a launch using ballistic missile technology. So the launch that we did, as far as I understand, did have ballistic missile technology, but I'm thinking it must be the range and the payload that was different, because I didn't hear anything about bans on the one that we recently set off here in the United States. So maybe that's the difference. Anyway, the report did not mention a second reported missile test that Iran carried out last month. The panel produced its report after the United States, Britain, France, and Germany in October called on the UN Sanctions Committee to take action in response to Iran's test of an Ahmad missile. So those nations that I just mentioned, I believe definitely are part of NATO. Iran's UN mission did not respond immediately to a request for comment. In October, Tehran disputed the Western assessment that the missile was capable of delivering a nuclear warhead. None of the Islamic Republic of Iran's missiles has been designed for a nuclear capability, Iranian Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif said at the time. Security Council Resolution 1929, which bans ballistic missile tests, was adopted in 2010 and remains valid until a July 14 nuclear deal between Iran and 6 world powers is implemented. Under that deal, most sanctions on Iran will be lifted in exchange for curbs on its nuclear program. According to a July 20 resolution endorsing that deal, Iran is still called upon to refrain from work on ballistic missiles designed to deliver nuclear weapons for up to 8 years. The experts' report noted that ballistic missile launches would still be covered by the July 20 resolution. I had another thought while I was talking about this, that often the nuclear warheads and so on require certain elements that are not natural to the countries that are producing them, so they buy them from other nations. And the irony of it is that Western nations often sell plutonium and a lot of different things. I'm not saying that's what the warhead would be, but often sell those caustic materials to other countries, and then when they do something that is not okay with it, then nobody takes the responsibility for having sold that material to those countries in the first place. So if they don't want them making stuff out of the caustic materials that they sell, then stop selling it to them. I mean, how hard is it to figure out? So, all right, so there was a piece here. I saw a picture of Jay Johnson, White House Press Secretary, or not Jay Johnson, Josh Ernst, said Tuesday initial reports show Iran's ballistic missile tests ran afoul of the United Nations security resolutions. So we already established that. He said the White House that the U.S. has strong indications that Iran violated United Nations Security Council resolutions with its ballistic missile test over the weekend. So Josh Ernst said, however, the move wouldn't complicate efforts to implement the nuclear war deal with Iran, whose parliament approved that agreement on Tuesday by a vote of 161 to 59. This is altogether separate from the nuclear agreement that Iran reached with the rest of the world. In contrast to the repeated violations of the United Nations Security Council resolution that pertains to their ballistic missile activities, we've seen that Iran over the last couple of years has demonstrated a track record of abiding by commitments that they made in context of the nuclear talks. Iran's state news agency said Sunday that the government test-fired a new long-range surface-to-surface ballistic missile. The test took place the same day as Iran's parliament approved the general outlines of the nuclear pact in a preliminary vote. Well, you know, that's swell, but here's the thing. Why is everybody gearing up for all of this nuclear capability? And, you know, what is it that people are really feeling in the atmosphere that it's supercharged right now with people wanting war? And for what? It never resolves anything. So anyway, State Department spokesman Mark Toner said Tuesday that the U.S. planned to raise Iran's missile test at the UN Security Council. Will continue to do this for any and all Iranian violations of UN Security Council resolutions. So Mr. Ernst suggested the ballistic missile test was intended to alleviate concerns among hardliners in Iran who oppose the nuclear deal. He said the U.S. is still gathering more information about the test before rendering a final determination, obviously probably about the sanctions, I don't know. Speaking in Boston, Secretary of State John Kerry said the U.S. still hadn't seen any official confirmation of the reported conviction of Washington Post reporter Jason Rezaian, and was continuing to discuss the cases of 4 U.S. citizens either detained or still missing in Iran. Hello. We're continuing that dialogue, and we call on the government of Iran, whether they've had a conviction or sentence or no sentence, to release these individuals, to drop all the charges, and to see them reunited with their families here in the United States, according to Mr. Kerry at a news conference after meetings with Defense Secretary Ash Carter and their Australian counterparts. And it says Asa Fitch and Felicia Swartz contributed to this article as well. So let's see if there's any interesting comments on it. Somebody named Jimmy Lee said Obama negotiated a deal that guarantees Iran will become a nuclear power and prevents the U.S. from taking steps in the framework of the deal to prevent Iran from developing nuclear weapons. Obama didn't do this because he's a bad negotiator. He did this because his goal was never to prevent Iran from developing atomic bombs and delivery mechanisms. His goal was always to blame Republicans and Israel for what he had power to prevent, but had no interest in preventing. So, there you go. One man's opinion. Here's another one. Thomas Falk says, this is just a preview of what Iran is going to do in the future. They will likely ignore or skirt around the agreement to do as they wish. So that's enough of that. And this reminds me that I just posted a video on my channel. By the way, this is going to be posted on my new backup channel, which is called Beyond the Veil, because I try to find stuff that might not necessarily be heard at all or very little on mainstream media. And I try to post it on this channel in particular, and it will mostly be about the current world situation and what's going on with that. And then sometimes I do some Bible commentary. I also use other books as well as the Bible. I use historical accounts from the Hebrew or Jewish respect. I use everything imaginable, and it doesn't really reflect my faith or my belief as much as it reflects my desire to delve into studying things and learning more about them. Not that my faith isn't important, of course it is, but I really do it because I want to learn more, and I want to teach others what I've learned. I've always been a natural teacher, and so that's what I'm really continuing to try to do. And I hope that you all will visit my new channel, Beyond the Veil, and that you'll subscribe to it and watch some of the vids on there. They'll also be posted on my Fuchsia 73 channel as well. So thank you very much for watching. I hope that you get something out of this video, and I hope that people will stop and consider that if anyone uses weapons of mass destruction or nuclear warheads or whatever, that in the end no one's going to benefit from it and everyone's going to suffer. So the time that we live in, there needs to be a lot more prayer, a lot less discussing and doing no action, and taking the right steps to bring peace to the world that we live in so that our children and grandchildren can have a better future. So this is Rosie. Thanks again for watching. Signing off. I'll talk to you next time.